The Union Budget 2022 has had its share of criticism from opposition parties, with opposition leaders saying it has missed the mark, at least for the middle class, farmers, the poor, and those in small businesses who have been hurt by the pandemic. Are these questions, and is this criticism valid? To speak on some of these issues, I'm joined now by Jayant Sinha, Member of Parliament and former MOS Finance. Mr. Sinha, thank you so much for joining us this evening on the India Development Day debate, a big day, budget day. Let me begin straight away by getting to the question of whether this was a missed opportunity. While the budget does lay a vision for the next 25 years, it says all the correct things. The question is, does it ease the pain of people who've been suffering in various ways through a third wave of the pandemic?
Absolutely, Tamanna. This is Atmanirbhar Bharat ka budget, a budget that positions our country very, very well for the future, and it provides support exactly where it's needed. Most importantly, right now, as far as the economy is concerned, we've got to focus on jobs. Because if we drive job growth, then of course we put our unemployed young people to work, we drive consumption, and we also create a virtuous growth cycle. And if you look at the emphasis in this budget, whether it is with respect to physical infrastructure, digital infrastructure, or the green transformation of the economy, the capex that's going in, the support that's been provided for investment, the further liberalization in terms of ease of doing business in every sector, all of that adds up to being a budget that positions us really, really well for the future. And it's a budget that's actually going to drive growth and, most importantly, jobs. And jobs are the elixir for the economy, right? If we have growth, we will create the jobs, and it's those jobs that will then drive this virtuous growth cycle for the economy going forward.
Just on the question of jobs, Mr. Sinha, specifically, has enough been done? I mean, the jobs come largely from this vast number of companies that we loosely define in the MSME space, a lot of them in the service sector, a lot of them have been bearing the brunt of the COVID-19 waves and restrictions because of them. Now, some of these companies in these sectors, when we speak to them, they say that we've had to shut a lot of our businesses, hence letting go of a lot of people. So how exactly has this budget moved towards really helping that unemployment situation?
So let me tell you the four things that the budget is doing to drive job growth. First and foremost, as you know, and virtually everybody has agreed, that the spending push towards capex is extraordinary. We've increased capex from 5.54 lakh crores to 7.5 lakh crores, and this is going to build out our infrastructure in a very massive way. And of course, this creates jobs in construction, it creates jobs in infrastructure, in industries such as steel, cement, and so on. So number one, infrastructure. Number two, we've continued to support our startups. Our startups are doing extraordinarily well, and they have, of course, in the last few years, gotten to unicorn status in many, many cases and created lakhs and lakhs of jobs. Number three is the PLI scheme. So we have 14 PLI schemes that are expected to create 60 lakh jobs. There's about 2 lakh crores that's being invested in the PLI schemes, and that's part of the reason why our exports are booming as much as they are. And number four is MSMEs. MSMEs are a very significant source of job creation. They have been supported throughout this pandemic period through the ECLGS, the Emergency Credit Loan Guarantee Scheme. That's being stepped up to 5 lakh crores. There's going to be a credit guarantee also that's going to be provided to MSMEs so that they can borrow freely and liberally. And in particular, there's going to be 50,000 crores of support for the hospitality sector that's been hit hardest. So if you look at where the job creation happens, in all of those areas, whether it's infrastructure, startups, manufacturing, or MSMEs, in each of those four areas, there's a massive push towards job creation.
No, so just let me follow up on the part about MSMEs, because, you know, when we are speaking to them after the budget as well, they're saying that the credit guarantee scheme is fine on paper, but we don't need more loans on loans when we're already drowning. We need some help. And they talk about GST input credit being the biggest element. Do you think that there is a need now to move in that direction, though it is, of course, outside the purview of the budget? The GST Council has to take it up?
I don't think we should look at the MSME situation just by looking at either GST or even credit for that matter. We have to look at it holistically. Many of the MSMEs, in fact, are startups, and there are many incentives that are being provided to startups. Many of them are going to be suppliers to the manufacturers that are going to benefit greatly from the PLI scheme. They're part of a manufacturing ecosystem, so they'll benefit there. And many of these MSMEs are actually supporting infrastructure as well. So we have to look at it holistically, and when we look at it holistically, we find that all of the customers for these MSMEs are going to see tremendous growth. And as they see tremendous growth, the credit that we'll be providing MSMEs will give them an opportunity to expand their capex. It will give them an opportunity to borrow for working capital, and that will enable them to grow. So I don't think we should look at one piece here or one piece there. Please look at it holistically, look at the entire ecosystem and see how the ecosystem is going to benefit from all of this.
Let me come to the question of allocations for healthcare. Last time round, there was a significant increase in the allocation for healthcare as a percentage of GDP, though some did point out that included things like clean water, etc. This time round, there was no major increase in outlay. Now, we have vaccinated a large part of our adult population, but boosters still have to come, kids still have to be vaccinated, and we don't know if there's going to be another wave of the pandemic. Do you think that there could have been more done or said to at least strengthen our public health system?
Our public health system is being strengthened every day, Tamanna, and of course during the pandemic we have elevated healthcare spending much beyond it has ever been done before, and we are maintaining that elevated spending level. Remember that we pushed up spending dramatically in the last year or two, and those levels are going to be sustained. And as a result of that, not only are we building a medical college in each district, we are rolling out and expanding Ayushman Bharat, which is then providing further support to hospitals, medical colleges and so on. But in the same vein, we are also massively expanding the digitization of the healthcare infrastructure. And as we take friction out of it, as we make payments much more easily available and much more standardized, that is going to enable the whole healthcare sector to grow as well. So we have to look at expansion, and we have to look at productivity, and let's not ignore and let's not forget the massive productivity impact of the healthcare stack as well. The National Health Mission is being pushed very aggressively. All of that is going to add up, just like the India stack has driven fintech, it has driven what's happened in the financial sector. The healthcare stack is going to drive health tech, and it's going to drive the healthcare sector as well.
Let me ask you one of the announcements that really is dominating the headlines, and that's the crypto tax. What is the messaging coming out there from the government? Is it a warning sign, a red flag of sorts to investors who are finding crypto assets very exciting, that you will be taxed heavily on this and you will not be able to offset losses?
I think it's very clear what the message is. The message is that crypto digital assets are assets like many other assets, whether it is land, whether it is house, whether it is gold, whether it's shares. These are all assets, and like all other assets, this asset class too will be taxed. It will have to be transparent. You will have to record your transactions, and you will have to pay tax like you pay tax on all the other assets that you have. At the same time, RBI is going to be introducing its central bank digital currency. So as far as the currency aspect of it is concerned, that's going to be handled through the RBI. The RBI will make that available so that we can have much easier, much friction, less transactions in the digital currency mode through RBI. And at the same time, if you want to invest in these digital assets, you want to speculate in these digital assets, then yes, you will have a taxation framework that you will have to apply.
There was a lot of speculation before this budget that it would be positioned to help the party's possible electoral gains in the upcoming state elections, but that hasn't happened. In fact, now the criticism coming in from the opposition is that not enough has been done for farmers, for rural India, etc. Does this indicate a confidence of what these poll outcomes can be, that there was no need felt to appease these voter sections?
I think the Bharatiya Janata Party under the leadership of the Honorable Prime Minister is very confident going into any election, and that's because we stand by our work. And it's not the work of one budget or the work of 1 year, it's the work of decades of hard work that our Karyakartas have put in, that our governments have put in, and it is because we deliver results on the ground. Remember that through the entire pandemic, we have rolled out 150 crore doses of the vaccine. Today, 90% of adults have got a single dose, 70% of adults have got 2 doses. We've supported 80 crore people through virtually a free food program, and we've delivered that flawlessly. We've provided cash transfer programs to support consumption. We've handled a once-in-a-century pandemic in a very, very smooth, in a very well-managed way. And it's these accomplishments, that is what we have shown to the public, which is why I think we're very confident going into any election.
All right, we'll have to wait and see whether this has any impact at all on the election outcome, or that is a different story altogether. But as of today, the union budget does lay down a vision for growth. Does it do enough to address the needs of people who are suffering today? Might be a question that still needs to be debated. Thank you so much, Mr. Sinha, for joining us.